Hi there. Welcome to another edition of TokStocks. I'm your host, Keir Reynolds. And today we're lucky enough to have Jim Macdonald, President and CEO of Kootenay Silver, trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under the ticker KTN. Hey, Jim, how you doing today?
Great. How are you?
Hey, I'm very well, thanks. I'm happy that you could join me. I'm sure your phone's ringing off the hook. You guys have upsized bought deal financing and everybody's wanting to pile into it. So I appreciate you setting aside a little bit of time to speak with me today.
Yeah. Appreciate your time as well. This is great.
Yeah, so we met back in November. You came on the program. Your shares were trading maybe, I think, just under $1 at the time. I think you're up about 25% sort of since then. So good stuff. Good job. Look forward to getting caught up here because you've had a flurry of news, a bunch of things over the last sort of 7 or 8 months. Before we really get into it, would you mind just giving us sort of a 60-second kind of elevator pitch? What's Kootenay Silver all about?
Yeah. Kootenay Silver is a junior exploration company. We're focused on the discovery of silver deposits in Mexico. We've been at it for over 20 years. We've made 3 other discoveries outside of our new Columba discovery already. And those 3 deposits are giving us a silver resources in the ground of 214 million ounces, measured indicated silver equivalent, and another 54 million in the inferred category. And now the big news is this new maiden resource, the first resource ever on our new discovery, Columba, high-grade silver deposit, classic, wonderful discovery. Initial resource, the first resource ever, 54 million ounces more.
Wow, that's impressive. So if you were to do what we're not allowed to do and add them all together, I guess you're sort of you're over 300 million ounces silver equivalent.
Yeah,
I'll do that.
yeah, you do that.
Yeah, excellent. Well, that's great. And maybe for those that are kind of a bit unfamiliar with who you are, would you mind just quickly touching on your sort of like background?
Yeah, I've been in the junior resource sector since 1988, maybe before a lot of your viewers were born. So, in the mining industry, forming junior companies. I'm a geologist by education, and put together numerous junior deals. The biggest of which was a thing called National Gold. We bought a out of the money gold deposit from Placer Dome in Kennecott in the year 2000, December 2000, as a matter of fact, when gold was trading at $280 an ounce.
Wow.
And incredible to think now look back at that. And we were firm believers that the gold price was going to come back. And it was a question of when. We managed to win the bidding process for this asset. Incredible story, because the total purchase price was $12 million. And it had a feasibility study in 2.2 million ounces of gold in a resource of over 4 million for 12 million bucks. They transferred the project to us, the title to us, against debentures we had to pay for a down payment of $50,000. That's how bad the market was at the time.
Wow.
And then
Unreal.
Yeah, it was unreal, but it was out of the money. The deposit needed sort of $325, $340 gold. And gold went promptly to $265 after we signed. Nobody wanted to finance it. So we did a deal with Alamos Minerals, John McCluskey, and Chester Miller, and to help us finance that. And then we merged the company a couple of years later. That became Alamos Gold. And I stepped off that board way back in 2012. And so incredible to think about that history. And after that, we formed Kootenay to go out as a private prospecting venture, and then took it public. And because of the introduction of the Mulatos acquisition, National Gold, it was my personal introduction to Mexico and the tremendous potential down in that Mexico has for discovery.
Excellent. And so if we fast forward to where we are today with Kootenay, It looks like now you've got, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me. It looks like you got 4 projects that would have 43101 resources
Yes.
ounces in the ground. Am I correct on that?
Yep, that's right. La Negra, Promontorio, La Seguera, and now Columba.
That's pretty impressive. A lot of companies don't even have one.
Yeah, well,
So, so some people might wonder, well, do you have, 4 sort of like smallish projects that will never turn into mines? What's the sort of strategy when it comes to, advancing the company and taking it to the next level and perhaps monetizing?
so we're very focused on this new discovery, Columba, where this maiden resource came out, 54 million ounces, because of the grade we're getting there. Average grade of 285 grams, really good grade. Also, excellent widths on these veins. They're not narrow. They're good widths. They get up to very wide widths, in fact, ranging up to over 40 meters true width. On average, all those veins are between 5 and 6 meters when you average them together. So what that means is it bodes well for the potential economics. So with that grade and that size, and we can see this thing's going to get bigger. Lots of lower hanging fruit. All the zones that we've defined so far are still open. We haven't even found the limits. So the objective here is because a deposit like this with these kind of grades can work at any silver price. So let's get this thing advanced. Let's grow it from where it is, get it to a stage where it justifies an economic study, like a preliminary economic assessment, and keep going with it. Eventually, we'll get it built up to the size, is what our intent is, and with drill success, to sell it to a mining company. Now, the other assets at $20 silver, we're out of the money. 2 of those other 3 assets start to look really interesting in the mid-30s. So we've updated all the 43101 resource reports on all 3 of those other deposits to bring them into current pricing and to just have them ready to do something with in advance when we get further into what we believe here is going to be a pretty strong and long-lasting silver bull market.
And maybe you could just talk to us a little bit more about Columba. What type of project is it? What type of resource? Where is it located? Does it still remain open? Maybe you could kind of just give us a little bit more color on this pretty exciting project.
Yeah, so absolutely is open. It's wide open to expansion. It's incredible. It's a classic Mexican vein system, high-grade silver veins. And it was never drilled ever before we started drilling it. And it is almost completely preserved from erosion. So whatever was deposited here originally is still sitting there in the ground to be defined by drilling. And we've got very clear targets laid out. We've got all the veins and structures mapped at surface. The resource bodies we already have just defined in this maiden resource are all open-ended. We haven't even found the edges of them. And with this financing so well received and oversubscribed, it's been upsized, puts us in a position to be able to drill 50,000 meters more. And that doubles the amount of drilling we've done so far. So next steps, close the financing, get back to drilling.
Excellent. And in terms of your cap table, assuming that you sort of close on your upsized sort of financing, what would your cap table sort of look like? How many shares would be outstanding?
Yeah, so right now we're 62 million issued. There's 17 million warrants right before the closing of this financing. And so that is, and those warrants range from $1.10 to $1.68 and expire from November this year to May of next year. So once this financing closes, there's a half warrant at $1.58. And we will be issuing approximately 17 million more shares on the issued outstanding. So that will go to 79 million on the issued outstanding, and we'll be adding approximately 8.5 million more warrants.
Thanks for the breakdown on that. Still pretty tight deal in terms of where you'll be, and you'll be sort of cashed up. How far will that money be able to take you? Does that mean that you'd be fully financed for sort of the balance of the year?
Yeah, absolutely. So get back drilling, aggressive drilling. It'll be, that drilling will go on for the next 10 to 12 months, and we'll be financed for that. And sort of more to the point of the objective, it's enough financing to get us to a resource update, and with some luck, it could be a very significant bump, possibly as much as doubling the size of what we have. Drill dependent results, of course.
Right. Wow, that's pretty phenomenal. So it's going to be drill, baby, drill.
Yeah. I'm glad somebody said
And yeah, I'll say it. I'll say the cheesy stuff. You can remain professional in your suit and tie there.
Yeah. Okay.
So all good. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up some of since we chatted, you guys have also put out a few different news releases related to some of the assaying from the drilling at Columba that was done sort of prior to your resource estimate coming out. You had some pretty eye-popping grades. Again, one of the things that sort of stands out for that project is, like you indicated, it's almost 300 grams per ton sort of silver. Sort of as an average in a resource, it's 284. But you've had some other stuff that's pretty eye popping. Like you've had some over 7,000 gram per ton type stuff. Over some pretty good sort of again, you've had some pretty high grade. So as you're drilling, you'll also be updating the market by putting out some drill assays. Is that the idea?
Yeah, absolutely. So as before, we'll get drilling, and we'll have a series of news releases on those results as they come in, and we batch them in together. We'll get several holes, put them out at a time, and that'll be the continual process here over the next several months.
Now, I've been doing a whole series. Your pal there, Jeff Sundar, who doesn't ever like to have his name mentioned, but he's a great advocate for you. He's definitely made sure that I don't overlook what you guys are doing. He's a pretty well-known, astute kind of investor. There seems to be sort of like a number of silver companies that are all trying to do this sort of like leverage to the silver price. What size does Columba sort of have to get to before it would look really interesting from, either a takeout target or something that you'd look at how to bring in a partner or something to develop? How big do these things have to get? The sweet spot a few years back used to be you get 100 million ounces and that's a mine. It's changed a little bit here with, inflation and costs of, building mines and things like that. But what do you think? How big does it have to get before it's really going to start to look pretty enticing from, that next wave of either potential partners or interest from your shareholders to move it forward and develop it?
Yeah, that's driven by a lot of different factors, including the biggest thing really, and you're right, the sweet spot is, as a rule of thumb, is 100 million ounces. Now, but there's so many other factors that go into that. So you can have 100 million ounces and they might not be economic, but they may be super economic. You may have 50 million ounces that are looking really economic that becomes a mine. That's a possibility too. So it's in the margin of those ounces. That's really what you have to look at.
Yeah.
And so you have to start doing sort of internal scoping studies to see what's happening with what you have. And we'll begin doing that during this drilling process. So 50 million is a huge start. You could, you have to look at the potential margins of what you're mining, and that's where widths of the veins are really important, and then the grade. So we used a cutoff of 150 grams per ton. So all our resources that we reported are above that grade. The reason we use that is because that's really a monetary number that has the inputs of, it assumes some recovery, it assumes some dilution, and it assumes mining costs, admin costs, process costs. So that's sort of a bar saying, okay, above that, these are all potentially economic. And when you got really good widths like we do, your cost can come down even lower. So you got to start looking at that. So a lot of things go into it. And then for when somebody, a mining company is going to buy it out, well, then different mining companies are looking for different parameters. If it's going to be a Pan American Silver, they're going to want to see something that can deliver probably at least 5 million ounces a year for 10 years, 20 years, or more. And so the company like that will want something that's over 100 million ounces. A smaller company, it's not going to take that much to have a big impact in their bottom line. So there are all these variables.
And in terms of the way it's sort of looking, epithermal vein system, is that sort of like a open pit underground sort of potential operation? Again, I know I'm extrapolating out many years in the future, but what's the nature of the deposit sort of looking like? Can you give a bit of color on that to people that should be looking further into this project?
Yeah, so looking at classic vein system, the underground mining is what we would be considering here for sure. And the cutoff grade we use for our resource estimate reflects that.
And whereabouts in Mexico is it?
It's in northern Chihuahua state. So in northern Mexico, 3.5-hour drive from the international airport in the capital city of Chihuahua on pavement, another 20 minutes from the pavement to the heart of the project. So really well located, classic basin and range geography there with big wide plains and low elevation mountains. Greatly located, power right to the base of the mountain we're at. So great infrastructure there.
Have you been to site before?
Many times.
Excellent. I knew you'd hit that one out of the park if I asked it. Have you guys been doing any site visits, taking any analysts, any newsletter writers, anybody interesting to go see?
Yeah, we have. And that'll be an ongoing process. Will continue, of course. And now this maiden resource has been really well received and catching more attention. So we hope to get even more analysts out there.
Well, I happened to golf on Monday at Sundar's charity tournament, and Kootenay was sort of the talk of the town there. So, so congrats on some of the success you've had here with your MRE. So nice to sort of catch up on it, for sure. So what's the value proposition for like an investor who can't get into your financing? Maybe that's me. What's the value proposition today? Why should we be really having a good look at this? How do you compare with some of the other kind of silver names out there? Why should people really hone in on Kootenay?
Well, a number of ways to look at that. So you could look at ounces in the ground, and when you look at just silver ounces, not silver equivalent, compared to our peers, we're still about 1/3 of where we should be. Maybe, about 1/3. If you look at silver equivalency too, we're even cheaper, 1/4 of peer average, people who have resources in the ground. That's one way to look at it. So there's a lot of upside. We're still, in our opinion, quite undervalued because of that. The other thing is the growth potential that we're seeing here with this maiden resource out, the size that we believe it could get. There's tremendous growth potential. Then there's the silver market itself. So silver's just breaking out into new territory. Its next leg up as it's going to challenge first 37, then 40. Once it does that, it'll be in our opinion, breaking those old highs And then after that, it's really anybody's guess. But we view this as a long-term silver bull that's just broken out onto its next leg. So, which even furthers the leverage of the silver we have in the ground to date, and also the upside we've got through the drill bit.
Excellent. And in terms of this upsized financing bought deal, what are some of the types of groups? Again, we don't need any names. You don't want to. We don't that. But is it fairly institutionally sort of being subscribed, or is it a bunch of individual investors? Is it a mix? Are management subscribing for any?
Yeah, management is, good mix, a real good mix. The institutions, the classic. The classic resource investing institutions, a lot of high net worth people, so very, very broadly distributed, actually.
And are you going to be doing a bunch of like marketing this summer, or do you put your feet up after this financing's done and take a bit of a breather? Well, it's a little interesting. We're getting a little late into June, and we're still getting, lots of financings, lots of upsizes, oversubscribed. It's good to see, because normally, in normal years, sell in May and go away. This year looks like a bit similar to 2021, where we're getting it to sort of, we're kind of into the beginnings of summer here, and it's still pretty rambunctious. What are you going to be doing?
Well, we're going to be getting that drill program underway. That's the next focus after this. And then,
are you going to be?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. I was just going to say, do you have any like marketing plan? Are you going to be attending any conferences? Are there some new areas based upon this financing? Some new investors that you're going to be having to stay in touch with, or some new groups that you're getting in front of? Yes. I've talked to a few people, and they've said that there's a lot more interest these days in sort of mining and exploration from Europe and the US. What are you going to be doing specifically?
Well, we're going to be doing all of those things. There's already this week meetings set up with brand new people who want to hear the story. They're not in the financing this time around, but it certainly caught their attention. So there's a lot of that going on. Doing a lot of interviews like this. The conference season for us really starts in early September, and on through the fall. So be very busy there. It should be really, really good timing, because we'll be having drill results coming out at that time, and just keep pushing.
Now, you've indicated, Jim, in this podcast that you've had a fairly long career. You've been doing it for quite a while. How does this mining cycle, this sort of, we're in the beginning stages of what feels like a bull market again. What do you think? You've been through several of these cycles. What are your thoughts for investors today that are wondering about where we're at, or if it's a good time, or why they should be looking at mining and exploration with some of their investment dollars?
Yeah, so this cycle feels like, to me, like we'd be sitting where we were in about 2004, and as opposed to a temporary spike regarding silver. There's been a long setup on that silver price and the silver chart here. We just broke out to the new level. I think we're into a multi-year run for silver, a silver bull market, and I don't see any fundamentals pointing in any other direction. And looking at previous cycles, it's pretty similar to that 2003, 2004 period, where we had about a 9 or 10 year bull market in the precious metals.
Yeah, those were some good years. That's kind of when I first kind of got started in it, and it was pretty good right up until about 2011, 12, and then we've had a pretty slow time that we've all had to grind through. But
Yes.
Last year was a pretty good year for my portfolio, and I'm feeling from speaking with folks like you that things are starting to improve. We're seeing Stocks make new 52-week highs. You're seeing upsizing of financings. You're seeing bought deals again in the mining and exploration sector, which seemed like it had been eons since that. So good on you. Is there any sort of final thoughts you kind of want to leave us with? Those are about all the questions I have for you today.
Well, interesting thing I read earlier today on a post by Terry Solomon, famous Terry Solomon, mine financer. And he was pointing something out about some of these financings that are getting done in the sector that are hugely oversubscribed and big money coming in. And what he's pointing out was this is the beginning of the generalist funds coming into the sector. And so this is a real shift. I think it points really, really well and positively to where we're heading with this precious metal market.
So, the last several years of having a bit of a bear market, the generalists largely had left, and it was really just those investors of last resort, the real specialists that were still allocating money. So what you're saying is that perhaps, what Terry was indicating is that maybe the market's getting a little bigger. There's a few more participants. There's more money to come into the sector. Which should hopefully bode well, right? Is that what you were sort of alluding that
it's saying? It's a real statement as to the sentiment is changed in general. So you don't just have the die-hard mining investors anymore. There's been a real shift.
Well, Jim, I really appreciate the time. I'll let you. I know you've got a busy slate of doing all sorts of these. You got a dog and pony show and stuff going on here. You got your financing to close and a bunch of people to disappoint, telling them they can't get in. It's a nice place to be for a change, so that's good. But I really appreciate your time letting us get a bit of an update here. Super interesting company in terms of anybody interested in the silver space, and wish you good continued exploration results at Columba.
Thank you, Keir. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Thank you.